Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. We're up to part 3 of this week's episode of the show. We're diving even deeper into our conversation with this week's guest. Let's continue exploring their inspiring journey. If you've missed part 1 and 2, definitely go back and catch up. Also, if you're not subscribing, please subscribe. Enjoy the rest of the show. See you soon. So fear. No, actually, before I get onto fear, authenticity. What would you say for anyone who is questioning that word? And it is another word that's been, like you mentioned before, is being thrown around.
Yeah.
If you were to define authenticity, then
if you can look yourself in the mirror before you go to bed and sleep peacefully without thoughts in your brain haunting you, without anything that's telling you like you did not do good today. If you're in a state like that, I think that's authenticity. Because see, it's impossible to answer that question for anyone. I feel I'm very authentic and you feel the same. When 8 billion people on the planet feel that they're very authentic, and it's nothing but 8 billion perceptions trying to prove that my perception of the world is better than yours. And I think that's not fair. And so I cannot say who's authentic and who's not. Who am I to judge that? But I can judge myself. And I think that's where the awareness and the honesty is going to be important. And so if you can sleep at night, peacefully so, I think you've achieved it.
Yeah. I when I've been talking about authenticity and changing the education system, I want to stop hiring people who can just, talk the talk in these interviews. And I don't want teachers to come into school and be teachers. I want them to come into school and be themselves.
Yeah.
And when they come into school and be themselves, they'll be able to look at being able to connect. Because connection is obviously feeling heard, seen and valued. And I'm quoting my previous guest, David Woods Bartley, and he does TEDx talks and travels the world talking about connection and suicide prevention. And he defined connection. And he quoted somebody else, so it's quote unquote. But he defined it as feeling seen, heard and valued, which leads to hope. And obviously hope is seeing and feeling that something that you want can be had. But how do you connect? Well, connect comes under 3 things, and it's expression. Well, first of all, it's recognition, understanding, and expression, and very simplified. And he explains it so much better. But I've been doing a few reels around it recently, and I always feel if you can say it twice, and you can teach it twice, you learn it twice, and you get better at it. And he talks about names, and I just understanding people's names, or trying with the effort. Do you get it wrong? Are you perfect? Absolutely, you get it wrong and you're not perfect, but just learning, trying to remember people's names and showing the effort that you remember people's names. He shared the example, but when I see a waitress, I say the name from the name badge. Straight away, they look at you and go, what the fuck?
100%.
But it's a buzz in themselves. So there's evidence in itself. You don't need a science experiment to understand that. But I just want these teachers to come in and be themselves in order to help form a connection. If I can do it as a casual teacher where I lose this relationship after the day, but I can come back a week later and they go, hey, Mr. White, connection is there.
Yeah.
Again, do you win it all the time? No. Recognition, not recognition, understanding, asking what questions instead of why questions. Like, why did you do that? Puts the defense up, feels like you're on attack. Whereas if you ask, what inspired you to do that? There's no reason to put a defense up. So your connection stays formed. Do you know what I mean? And the expression, I shared a reel the other day again. Being in England, you're from India, just ringing a friend and then seeing a missed call from me is an expression of my, as he used the example of saying, I love you. And well, why do I have to keep saying I love you? They know I love them. So say it again. Who cares? That's just expression, right? But I put it into the context of phoning friends. Well, you can see a missed call off me. That tells you you're in my thoughts. And to me, that is a form of connection, even though I'm not on that side of the world anymore,
Fascinating. You say that there used to be a time when calling was really expensive. It was about and I'm thinking about Indian rupees. It was like $50 for 1 minute of calling someone.
Yeah.
And we used to just drop a missed call to each other. And I remember that in uni, where if I would want to remind someone that, oh, have you woken up to do the work today? Because we had to study together. I'll just drop them a missed call, and then if they missed call me back, then I know that they're awake. And that was it. It was such sweet.
I like that.
All you needed was a missed call to build connection. Today, with all the social media, all the technology, just the intention for the connection is missing, Andrew.
Yeah. Ooh. And the top of the chain of that, I think that it ties into what you did your TED Talk on was fear.
Yeah.
I think the amygdala is causing all the mental health problems. I think it's the top of the chain. We're all living in fear. Now, people are going to go, hold on, I'm not scared. I'm not. But can you see where I'm coming from?
I love that thought. But here's a counter thought. Whose brain is the amygdala in? And who's stopping us from controlling it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we don't, again, what you were saying about the teachers, they should walk in not talking about themselves, but creating that condition for the child to grow and prosper and be inspired. But they first need to learn about themselves. They first need to build that. We're all on a very different journey, Andrew. And maybe they're not there. And I'm not judging them for it. It's absolutely okay. Because we're not comparable to each other. We're not equal to each other. We're on our own journeys, is what I'm trying to say. And so I think it's really important to be able to find ways, create techniques, learn from the vast internet that's around us to see how you can control the amygdala. Yes, it's at the root of all our problems and the fear and all those emotions that pop up that cloud our judgment. But I think we need to find ways to control it better. And I can give you a very, very actionable example. So what used to happen with me is when I'm, say, giving a massive client presentation, and if it's, say, due in 10 days, I'll procrastinate and I'll procrastinate and I'll procrastinate and I'll be on the 9th day, and now it's like tomorrow. And that's when I'll start working.
I was the same.
And it would put so much anxiety into me, and I would still do a good job. And so then the thing that I'll tell myself is, Utkarsh, your best energy, best work happens on the last day. You do the right thing. Next time, we'll still do it the last day. And I would tell that to myself again and again. For years, I would have that practice. Last day, do the presentation. That's the way to do it. And then one day I realized that I have these 2 presentations. I'm getting so anxious. I'm not doing anything right. I'm not talking to my kids in the right way. I'm not talking to my wife and not helping her with the meals and this and that. What's happening with me? And then I realized that there's this presentation in 2 weeks from now, which is in my head, but not on paper, not on the slides. And then I made a commitment that to control my anxiety, I'm going to start 7 days before, and then 10 days before. And now if I have a presentation in 1 week from now, I'm already ready. The anxiety gets controlled. The amygdala says like, what the hell, Utkarsh, what do I do now? But that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. What about food? Do you see an issue with food?
It's a challenge. Food is a very unique challenge because as cultures, I think we're programmed to celebrate with food. We're programmed to have big feasts, and we're programmed, and then I think our food's getting a lot more processed, which is the big challenge. And I think
that's the problem, though, isn't it?
That's the big problem. And the processed food is releasing so much dopamine that it makes you feel that that's all I needed. Those French fries and that burger and that big jar of Coke, that's all will help me survive. And this idea of eating 3 meals a day, all of this is incorrect, but it's been fed into our system so strongly that it's a really hard behavior to unlearn, Andrew. It's a really hard. And I've had my struggles. I'm not going to say that I'm not. The first year when we were in Australia, the beer here is great. I'm like, who doesn't want to drink 3 days a week? And in India, I would not drink like even maybe once a month or maybe just socially. But the beer here is amazing. And so after doing that for about 6 months, seeing my weight shoot up, I was like, what's happening here? And then I realized it's available easily next to Coles. You walk into a liquor line and you get whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that it's haunting me now. And the example it is setting for my children is that I have my beer, they want their Coke. I don't want them to have the Coke, so I should stop having the beer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened last year in November. I still socially drink. If I'm with a mate and having a conversation, I'm happy to have a coffee or a drink. But it's again, reprogramming needs to be done every single day.
Yeah. And it's not a habit that's reoccurring constantly as well. That's the key to it. I mean, I've not drank since my 40th last December, if I'm honest. Oh no, I had a whiskey when I was camping, but other than that, and you're right. I don't think my kids won't be able to grow up telling me, saying that I had alcohol because they never see me. But again, I'm not against it. I'm sure I'll have one at New Year when I've got friends from England over. So I'm not against it. But I'll open up here a little bit. 2.5 years ago, March 22, I was 20 minutes away from being in a coma, and my gallbladder exploded and pretty much gave away. And I thought I had an anxiety attack because of some toxic work at places. I was suffering with what I thought was anxiety attacks. When I reflect, didn't really eat badly. Can't blame it on the alcohol because I wasn't. Since leaving England, really didn't really drink that much. And 20 minutes. My partner got the phone call to say sepsis had set in and or was nearly setting in. Any given moment, 30 minutes from now, prepared for the worst, basically. Those words came out of his mouth. And after that, I got rid of sugar. And that's when I went on the journey of reading about cold exposure. Started doing cold exposure, became clearer in the mind, started to lose work around the anxiety, which led to then going on to the spiral of reading about sleep. Because I feel the two top issues that we have as a society is that's affecting our brains, our fear, is sleep and food. I think that's the top, right to the top. I know there's layers and upon layers of conversation below that, but I think if we go right to the top, outside of things that we can't control, and these obviously things we can control if we knuckle down and try. So I started to read about sleep, but then I started coming across words in the sleep books, Matthew Walker, Why Do We Sleep, and stuff like that. I didn't understand. So then I said, well, how do I get to understand this? Go and read around the brain, the source of all the problems, which has then led into microbiome and human biology and understanding DNA. I'm reading a book now, DNA is the Way, understanding now methylation genes. And now I can see all these things at school about the mind's racing and everything's being diagnosed. And I don't want it to sound like I don't believe in it. This is not about belief. This is about understanding it at a deep level. And let's prevent or reverse and stop going down this track of over-diagnosing everything when we can actually look to prevent, if not reverse, or at least calm down to a certain point. Basically, sum it up, root causes. But I was eating, at night, I would eat chocolate upon chocolate and chips, crisps to those in the UK, and bottles of Coke. And some might say, well, that's done it to your gallbladder. But to the level of my gallbladder being destroyed, the doctor said that couldn't have done that much damage in that amount of time. This has been going on for a long time. And I believe that was down to chronic stress. And my organ was speaking to me. I'm not saying all that helped. It definitely didn't. It contributed for sure. But I don't believe that was the root cause of why I went down that road. And that's why I changed my life. And that's, I'd already left. I'd already started the book. So I was already en route. And then that just popped up into my life. And that's when I thought, this is the journey I have to go on. Because I don't want my children to grow up with that. And he does my son want Coke from McDonald's? Yeah, he does. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. But he doesn't get it. And does he get it once a blue moon on a special treat? Yes. When we go to England, there's rules at family. They all seem to give it to me. He loves it. But man, I can see the effects. And I can see it in schools every day of these minds racing and I just can't believe that I see these children spinning around. I don't remember a child spinning around 15 years ago. For the sake of spinning around.
It's a fascinating world, and
Scary.
The challenge that I see with this, Andrew, is where does this consumerism end? Where's this capitalist society taking us? Because it's always more and more of everything, more and more of every damn thing. And with all this noise, it's so hard to put those noise cancelling headphones on, because it needs a lot of will, it needs a lot of commitment, and it needs you to really work upon yourself every single day. And I think that's a journey definitely worth taking. Definitely.
100%, and that path has made my mind clearer. It's made my body clearer. It's made me get up more present in the morning. Do I get it right? And sometimes am I a bad dad? I'm sure I am, for sure, absolutely. The podcast has slightly taken over, and the reason why I became a casual teacher was to be more present with the family. It's kind of taken a little bit of a backstand because of how big the podcast has got in terms of workload, and it's got bigger than I ever thought it would in the shorter time that I'm 30 weeks in at the moment, but by the time I publish you, it'll probably be like 45. I'm 16, 17 weeks ahead of schedule. But that is a result of the hard work that I've put in. And I'm not getting anything back financially. I'm not looking for that. I hope it goes down that road so I can do this on a bigger level, so I can help more people. But if I do that now, I'll be burning out. I won't, you know what I mean? I'm enjoying the process. I really genuinely are. I would have been burnt out a long time ago if I was purely looking for the money, because I'd be like, why has it not come yet? And so I've gone on a bit of a tangent again, I guess. But anyway, let's we'll definitely come back to I know we'll be talking more about the brain, and fear will definitely come into it. But let's go back to you and your journey. Where did this all begin? Even like before the physiotherapy, where did all this begin for you?
I think, and I'm asked this question a lot, Utkarsh, what was childhood like? And the way this question is put, and this could be my subconscious mind playing a game with me, but the way this question is put to me, it's almost like they expect me to tell some traumatizing story, that how childhood was full of this and that. And I'm not discounting anyone's trauma with that. I'm just saying that I did not have any. I had two parents who were really warm, and they were both doctors, and so in a way they wanted me to become a doctor too. And I would never say that they compelled me to be one, but that's the way of life I'd seen, and so it seemed like that's who I want to be, and it was a clear journey. And so that's the path that I took. And I think through that, what I've also realized is that my dad is a complete optimist. Like I don't even think he has any amount of pessimism in him, so I cannot even call him an ambivert. Mom is towards the ambivert / pessimism sides. And so when both of them were raising us, me and my sister, I think we got those qualities from them, where we became very strategic ambiverts, where we knew when to approach things with optimism and when to not. And I'm using the word ambiverts instead of extrovert and introvert. My brain is playing games, because this is the time when my sleep cycle is about to start, Andrew. So I think that's what's happening. But as I'm talking about optimism and pessimism, and so life was always good. And I think the big thing that happened through that journey is that when I decided to give up on physiotherapy, when I decided to say that I don't want to be a physiotherapist anymore, they understood. And I'm pretty sure it was baffling for them that here we have a child who we raised and who we got the right education, and we want him to become a doctor and stay one forever. But after 7 years of practice, when that child or adult now came and told them that I want to do something else with my life, they did not for a single moment flicker or tell me that no, you cannot. They were always supportive. And so I think that to me is what my pillar of strength is. And as I move forward, and I often say this during my uni degree, doing my bachelor's in physiotherapy, the best thing that happened to me through college was getting my wife. The degree does not come to much use, but she's still here. She's the one who got me to Australia, because she got a job here. I did not. So I often tell her that you've given me a lot of joys in life, and I'm happy to take care of the dinner or the cleaning work for the rest of our lives because you've brought me to this beautiful country. But I think these three people ended up being those pillars of strength, which allowed me to try and do these experiments with life, which allowed me to find joy. And there were moments when I like doubted myself, Utkarsh, what the hell are you up to, man? Get it together. But I think they were still there. And yes, I had my struggles, but I always at the back of my mind knew that if I were to really like fall flat, there'll be a hand that'll come towards me. There'll be three hands that'll come towards me and pick me up. And I think that kind of support, Andrew, whether that comes from a spouse, from a friend, from a parent, from a sibling, from a whoever that comes from, I think that's worth it. And we all should invest in that relationship, and we should all try to do it with all our heart, because that relationship allows you to really build a solid building on that foundation.
Agree.
Yeah.
You said you had some struggles. What were some of the struggles that you encountered then?
Yeah, a sigh comes, and as a coach, I'm very cognizant to my non-verbal cues. So the sigh comes in. I remember, so when I decided to quit my job in the middle of the pandemic, I remember telling that to my wife and my parents. They were sitting right across the dinner table, and their jaws dropped, because that was a time when people were not getting any jobs. People were losing the jobs they had, and my company had secured us, and we were okay throughout the journey. And here I was in June of 2020 deciding to quit my job. And I told them, trust me, I'll be 10 times of what I am today. And I'll make that happen. And they're like, Utkarsh, what basis? How are you saying that? And I said, I've done this before and I'll do it again, but you have to trust me. And so I took that leap. The first few months, Andrew, were a dream run. A few clients happened immediately in 2021. Some great coaching gigs came my way. And by June or July of 2021, I was like, wow, I made it happen. I made all the right calls. Everything was good. I think within the 6 months, I'd earned the same amount that I would in a year. So even that was success at that moment. And then I hit a rock bottom, because after June of 2021, which is when the second massive COVID wave happened, no business in June, no business in July, no business in August and September and October. And I had started to eat into my savings because I was spending thoughtfully so whatever I was earning, but the expenses were piling up. And by October, I clearly remember that day, I had $2 in my savings account.
Wow. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.